WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I'm in Australia, Starward, and this is a part of their core range, Fortis. Now, one other person actually has a video of batch 1 and I have batch 2, so I decided to do the video. Yay! Fortis means bold. Fortis means brave in Latin, and this is 50%. So this is a 3-year-old whiskey over here in Germany. I paid €69.50 for this. And interesting enough that in Australian dollars, they pay 129, which is actually almost 40 euros more than what we pay. Converted those euro and Australian dollar rates. Australia has one of the highest alcohol excise tax of the world. They really do pay a lot, and not even on imported goods, but also on their own goods they produce there. So we're very privileged here in Germany to have some of the lowest excise taxes in Europe and maybe even the world. All right, I'm going to compare it to something. I'm going to compare it to the Starward Solera. The Solera is a 43%. This is a 50%. This is made using the Solera process. You take a barrel at the top, you fill it up, and you take something in the bottom, you take half of it out, you fill up that with that 50%, and you take something down below that, and you take 50% out of that, and you fill that up with above. So always you're going and you're taking something from the top, going down 3 layers, basically. And so they promise that we basically have something from that first original barrel in here. This is whiskey base number 166929, and this is a Pera wine. A Pera is basically the Australian sherry. They can't use the word sherry, so what do? They take fortified wine from their own country. This is double distilled, and this is using Australian barley. This is also double distilled. This is also using Australian barley, and this was actually stored or actually matured in red wine casks from Australia that it had contained Cabernet Sauvignon, or also Shiraz, red wines from the Barossa Valley. Now, which is very interesting is they're claiming, and I absolutely believe that is true because this is what happens, this is American oak. So what they do is they actually use American oak for the Australian wine barrels, just like we use American oak in the sherry industry, just like we use also American oak often in the bourbon industry. I'm always in the bourbon industry, but also in the Irish and the Scotch whiskey industry. American oak is one of the best things out there in the world for aging brown spirits in, let's just say that. All right, very good. Yes, I mentioned basically everything I wanted to. 172983 at whiskey base. Non-chilled filtered, yay, no color added. I can't imagine the color was added to this because of the Apera wine, but this is probably chill filtered. One of the very few whiskeys that actually mentioned if it was chill filtered or not. On the in the glass, at least I can see a big difference, a noticeable difference. I have a lot more of a red moment here in our Fortis and a little bit more of an orange moment here in our Solera. So the Apera is a little bit more of a brown note, and the red wines, the Cabernets, the Cabs, the Shiraz actually here are a little bit more predominant. And I believe that the casks here were fairly wet. They do mention that some of the casks that they used here from the American oak with the red wine in there from Australia were recharred, but the majority, most of them were not, because they wanted to have that flavor profile transfer into the whiskey. All right, nosing. I get a nice, strong, sour cherry moment. I get a little bit of a cranberry and even a little bit of a... I forgot the word. This is very good. This is very good. I see them. I know what the word is in German. We're going to move on. I'm going to come back to that for a moment. Currants, red currants. Wow, that was embarrassing. I have here red currant. I have a little bit of a red plum. I have a lot of wild cherry or sour cherry, and I have a little bit of that cranberry in there. Very red dominant, very fruit forward driven. It's very interesting. I could imagine this as a very good mixer. There's a lot of flavor in here. And the Melbourne scene has a lot of people actually in that cocktail scene doing a lot of amazing things there in Australia. And they, with their COVID strategy, not trying to be politically incorrect here, but Australia as an island, of course, have had the opportunity to actually meet in groups and not have a lockdown, as at least it's not as often as we have here in Germany. We've been in lockdown now basically since November. Which means no. Just today was the first day in March. They actually opened up the hair salons. Still no clothing stores, no non-essential things. Even our Lowe's, for example, do-yourself stores have been closed since November, almost half a year, 5 months now. This is amazing what we've gone through over here. And Australia has a totally different strategy and a totally different possibility than we do in Germany, because Germany is a transit country. We can't close our borders. At least we don't want to build a wall again, and so we always have the problem there. All right, good. Going over to the Solera. I do like this nose. This nose is a little bit of fig. This nose is a little bit of plum. This is a very, very nice nose. It's a little bit of dark moments, a dark chocolate in here. This is a very, 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 very nice nose. I really, really like the nose on the Solera from Starward. Well done. All right, let's try this. 50% versus 43%. A 3-year-old versus a no age statement. Hopefully 3 years old. Let's just say that. At least over here in Germany, 60 euros versus basically 70 euros. In Australia, 125 versus 129. Cheers. Red wine versus Apera wine, which is fortified, basically Australian sherry. All the best. Mm. Mm-hmm. That's unique. This is a cherry lollipop. Wild cherry lollipop. This is really, really unique. And the interesting thing is it starts here. Ding! There's a tiny little, at the end, there's a little bit of a chocolatey type of fudge type of maybe sawdust moment going on there, but it goes right back up. The 50% are perfectly integrated. There's no alcohol sharpness here. Yes, there's alcohol the entire time, but it's not actually disturbing in any such way. And that flavor profile that they went for, that wild cherry, that cranberry, that currant, that red plum, delicious. They just put them all together and just went wham. So these barrels were wet. This is the wine that's coming through here. And I like it. That's not bad. This is actually a C+ whiskey. It's not enough for a B-. I'm sorry. It's not perfectly my wheelhouse. I'm not sure if I'd like to drink a wild cherry lollipop every night, but if I did, this would be my whiskey. This is really, really just bam, right on that spot. All right, let's go to Solera. Now, many people have done videos about this in English on Solera, so this is my personal opinion to this as well. I love the nose, got a good nose. Wow. First of all, I get hit by alcohol, young alcohol, which I really don't understand. Then I get hit by a lot of tannins. This is a really, really woody type of moment. Then it goes back up and there's a little bit of fruitiness. But this is not, at least for me, in my personal opinion, not a great whiskey. What is interesting on my channel, you'll actually find a Starward Apera video, which was a single cask just from an Apera cask that was bottled exclusively for Germany. I actually really liked it, and I really do get that Apera moment towards the end. I've never had an Apera all by itself. I'm so sorry. I might have to go look for one and try it. This is really unique about whiskey, that I get to try all these other spirits in the world just because I want to find out what the whiskey producers are using to make these wonderful combinations in the casks. But the alcohol, the sharpness of the alcohol, that a little bit of the woodiness of the bitterness of the cask just really puts me off here. I love the nose, as I mentioned twice or 3 times already. But unfortunately for me, the palate just doesn't carry through. If I were to choose one of these two, I would definitely choose the Fortis. I really like it. Yes, it is 10 euros more expensive, maybe over in America, $20 more expensive. But it is part of the official core range, so you might be able to find this more readily available than you will the Solera. Nothing really wrong about the Solera, of course, except for the fact that there's a lot more alcohol sharpness and also the bitterness of the wood coming through here. But I do particularly like the fact that Starward is not a producer of Scottish whiskey in Australia. We have a whiskey distillery called St. Killian, and St. Killian has four-side pot stills. They get their barley from Scotland, their peated barley. They're basically making single malt Scotch in Germany. Almost the same processes, almost everything identical, the same cask, the same everything. That's what this is not. Starward says, hey, we're Australian. We have Australian barley. We don't have Scottish barley. We have Australian casks. Yay. We're not using the ex-bourbon. We're not using the things everyone else is using. They're going really for the Australian moment, and we get to have a part of that. And I really enjoy that passion, that feeling, that flair. Could they be older? Yes. Could they be less expensive? Yes. Could they be a little bit more consistent in, at least in touching fulfilling my flavor profile wishes? Yes. But the Fortis, in my opinion, is something I can recommend. So my question of the day is a tiny little bit something different. If you've noticed, I have not shown this explicitly, but we have here so-called plastic corks, artificial corks. Most of the Starward bottles that I've had, all of the Starward original bottles that I've had have had these corks in them. Found the cork. What is your personal opinion on the corks? Would you like to have a real cork? Let's take a look at this one. So this bottle has a real cork. Would you like to have an artificial, maybe a pressed cork, where you take pressed cork sawdust and put it in there? Or would you like to have totally artificial corks, as in this? I personally don't mind. I do not like the screw caps on bottles where I pay 50 plus euros for them. I think a 20 euro bottle of something is okay. If I have a Japanese whiskey, it's like, okay, yes, Japanese use screw corks or screw caps, I know that. But everything else, I do want to have the feeling, a little bit like Chad and Sarah from his bourbon night. I want to always be able to do this, the uncorking. Yeah, see. And one more time for good luck. What I really like about these artificial corks is they do not break. I've had quite a few spring breaks break on me. You open up for the first time, you actually wet the cork a tiny little bit, you undo the capsule here, and you twist a tiny little bit, and you pull it up, and you have half of it. I've had that happen, I think, 5-6 times so far with Springbank alone, and that really, and that would never happen to us with the artificial cork, and I do not think they impart any type of flavor whatsoever. My personal opinion. What's your opinion? Please answer that in the chat down below. Thank you very much for watching. I expect Starward to continue to do unique and bold things, Fortis things themselves. I look forward to that. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell others about this crazy guy in Europe tasting whiskey you might not ever see. So sorry. All the best. WhiskyJason here. Whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany. Contact me always at WhiskyJason@gmail.com. All the best. Bye-bye.